Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Talking Cardboard. As always, my name is Cory, and if you like what we're doing here on the channel, please feel free to subscribe, leave comments below, and hit that like button. We really do appreciate that. It helps out a lot. And in today's video, I am reviewing a new to me civilization game called Monumental. Let's get started. So diving right into Monumental. What is Monumental? Monumental is a civilization game that has a unique twist mechanically to it where you are building out a tableau of cards in front of you, and it's got some deck building involved as well, but the tableau consists of a 3x3 grid of cards, and on your turn you are choosing to basically activate one row and one column of cards out of that 3x3 grid in order to do actions. And you've got a bunch of different actions going on in this game that I find really cool, where you're generating these different types of resources to do different things. You are trying to buy more cards to your deck. Like I said, it's deck building, so you're trying to upgrade your deck as you go, get better and better cards so you can get better actions. You begin the game actually by setting up the board as a module board with a bunch of different tiles. You can make your own map out of it. You can do one of the preset maps out of the rule book based on the player count and that sort of thing, but the modular map is really cool too. Some of the things you're trying to do along this modular map, as one might assume, is some area control. There's a lot of endgame scoring in this game where you have majorities. So like the majority amount of technologies you've built, the majority amounts of monuments you've built in this game, and the majority of the different territories that you control at the end of the game too. So those are pretty much a few of the different things you're trying to really go after in this game. Like I said, it is a civilization game, but based on the cover, it looks more like a Colosseum combat arena game, but no, it's civilization through and through, but plays in a pretty quick timeline, which I appreciate. About an hour and a half to 2 hours per play, 2 to 4 players. Each player is taking on a unique faction as well, where your starting deck of cards is completely different than your opponent's cards, so it gives a little bit of asymmetry to it as well. You're playing over a span of 3 different ages, or if you're looking for a longer game, you can play with the Renaissance era as well, and each age of cards get better and better with technologies as you're going through civilization, going through time. Starting with Era 1, which is more of like ancient medieval times, and then into like Era 2, where mathematics was invented, and then eventually into Era 3. You've got like Albert Einstein and Nikola Tesla in this game. You've got the space stations and things like that. By the time you get to Era 3, it really ramps up with the technologies. Like I said too, there are a few different things you're going after in this game. There are blue technology cards, which really help out and help drive your deck of cards really well, because what ends up happening is at the end of your turn, you discard all the cards that you use for your actions and then refill in your 3x3 grid of tableau face-up cards in front of you. But if you draw a blue technology card, you simply draw another one off the top of the deck and put it over the top of the technology, so that technology card isn't a wasted slot. It actually boosts and helps out the action of whatever card is then placed on top of it. So technologies is a really good thing to go after. Not only gives you that added bonus of actions, but also endgame victory points. You've got the white cards here, which are monuments. You can build monuments and work towards building them. You build them in 2 different phases, where each phase costs resources, and you're tracking that with a little cube, and by the end of building it out, you actually get to place that monument on one of the areas of the map that you control, and then you would now have that ability from that monument shuffled into your deck for the rest of the game. And you're trying to build out those monument cards again for whoever built the most monuments by the end of the game gets a majority bonus on that as well. So you've got some building cards, which are brown, and buildings just generate resources for you. You've got, the technology resources, you've got production resource, and you have military resources. The game, which I appreciate, is laid out very simply with the actions. It's really smooth playing. To do actions, like I said, you are basically tapping the cards in one row, one column out of your 3x3 grid to do those actions. But like I said, most of those are buildings and or buildings paired with technologies that give you resources. And once those resources are generated, there's only a couple different things you can do with those resources. So it's nice and streamlined and simple. One of which, like the black resource, is production. That simply just gets you more, purchasing more cards from the buy row to add to your deck. And then the blue resources is more of that technology, which you're able to buy technology cards. And then the red resource is military. And depending on how much military you spend, that'll tell you how many troops you can move along the map. And you can't take over a location until you have the correct number of troops to take over a spot. So it's not really a ton of combat. It's just very deterministic. If you have enough troops to tie or supersede whoever's troops are already there, you just automatically take over the spot. And then the player's troops who just got taken over actually bounce back to their starting home city. You can't really bolster any more troops in this game or get more troops throughout the game. You simply, if you get overtaken, they just bounce back to your home city and you can reuse them later in the game. So a lot of pros with the game. Like I said, it's very streamlined and smooth playing and fast playing. Definitely for a Civilization game, this is probably one of my favorite Civ games. I'm not super into Civilization style games, but I would say this one definitely kind of gels with the style of game that I like when it comes to any game, and that is the ease of play and the smooth and the way it's easy to teach people and that sort of thing. It just really sings and really plays well. Another pro for me is I like the ramp up effect that you get with the cards through the different eras. You get better and better cards that you're adding to your deck, and therefore you are able to combo different things more and more. And the turns do get pretty complex with the combos that you can pull off as you get into mid game and eventually into late game. It just gets really crazy with the combos. So it does have some analysis paralysis with that after a while when you're really getting into trying to pull off the best combos. Some of the things that I didn't really enjoy, and I could see others maybe not enjoying either, is the fighting over the land, the tug of war. Like I said, you can't really bolster any more new troops, and the combat is very deterministic. So by the end of the game, you're just trying to math out the best way you can get troops to overtake the land to try to get the majority amount of territories, but really it's all kind of scripted and mathed out at the end of it, which I didn't really like that much. I think if the combat was a little bit more tactical and you're strategizing a little bit more with it, I think that would be a lot more fun. And as you'll see with my final rating here at the end of the video, that would definitely help push the rating up a little bit if that combat was just a little less deterministic and just a little bit more fun with the tactical decision making. Just not a whole lot of tactical decisions in this game. The asymmetry of the different factions is really cool, and I really like that a lot. But still, the con with that combat is that it doesn't really change the combat at all based on what faction you are. It all kind of feels the same. And I could see, after a few plays now, I'm seeing it feel a little bit samey with each and every play. So combat, could definitely be better. The other thing is the cards that you see from game to game do get recycled over and over again. You will see the same cards come up pretty much each and every game. But still, a lot of fun with the card play and the different actions you can do. Really enjoyed the system and how smooth it all plays, but definitely a couple cons with the area control and the combat and just how that just kind of plays out the same every time you play the game. Other than that, not really too many other cons. There are definitely more pros to this game than cons. The card play is fantastic. The modular map tiles is really cool. The combo nature of it is really fun as well, getting the technologies. And getting into my final rating here is a 7.5 out of 10. And like I said, it definitely could push up into more of that 8.5 out of 10 range if the combat played out a little bit differently, if there was a little bit more decision making, tactical and strategic decision making with the combat would really help boost this game into the 8s or even 9 out of 10 range, along with just a little bit more variability in the cards that you see each time. The same monuments will be coming up every time, the same technologies will be coming up every time, and you just kind of fall into that same path of how am I going to play this game? Well, I could go down this path, or I could try the path that I tried 2 games ago, and that's really about it. There's not a whole lot of variability with that. But Like I said, 7.5 out of 10, still really good. I really enjoy the game a lot for the few plays that I have played it. And it's one of those games that I do enjoy teaching to new people and will be a nice kind of starter civilization game that I wouldn't mind getting to the table with gamers that don't play games very often. Or if I'm looking just for kind of a quick teach, quick game of the night, it still is like meaty enough of a game to be the main game of the night. But if I'm looking for just like, hey, let's just play an hour and a half long game and I'll quickly teach you the game in 5-10 minutes. Let's sit down and rifle this one off. Then Monumental will definitely fill that bill. And I know there's expansions for the game already too, which the game's been out technically since 2020, and I just got my hands on it now, but I know maybe the expansion content will help with that variability, and I just don't believe any of the expansion content helps with really the combat. And I could be wrong with that. Tell me in the comments below if I'm wrong, and maybe some of the expansions do change the combat and make it more strategic and feel more important in the game. But really, at the end of the day, it just kind of comes down to kind of mathing out the cards you get and trying to get majorities by the end of the game, and plays out very similarly each and every time. Side note, I have only played the game both 2 players and 3 players. I have yet to play it as a 4-player game, and maybe that changes a little bit with that, but really I can't see it changing much with the way that it is essentially designed. And the way the game has been designed is you can't bolster more troops. There's only so many spaces on the map, so if you're not bolstering more troops, you can kind of math that out on how far your troops can get from your starting tile anyway, and it all comes down to who can kind of overtake that last tile to get majorities by the end of the game. Or if you're in a 3-player game, maybe that 3rd player overtakes the person who's in first place with the majorities, and now they're in first place, and the person who was in second stays in second, and they don't get majority anyway. And there's no climax to the combat. It's just kind of samey. But anyway, with that, it definitely has potential, I could see, with more expansion content, and I'm hanging onto this one for a while. I would like to get my hands on some of the expansions to see how that changes things, and then maybe hopeful for some other expansion content to come out in the future for it as well. That'll maybe, kind of etch that up into the 8, 8.5, maybe even 9 out of 10 range if there was just a couple more tweaks to the game that would play into my style of game that I enjoy a little bit more. But for now, 7.5 out of 10. I'm hanging on to it for a while, like I said, in hopes that more and more content will keep coming out for it. But kind of sad to say, if I don't see a lot of changes in the variability in the cards that can get shuffled in, and the combat being a little bit more strategic or tactical eventually with more expansion content, I could see this one leaving the collection in the future. But like I said, for now, I am hanging on to it and really do enjoy it. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely give Monumental a try. Leave in the comments below on your experiences if you've played some of the expansion content and how that changes the gameplay, because I would definitely be interested in hearing about that. And as always, until next time, you all have fun gaming.